Okay, hi everyone. So welcome to this session. My name is Somajit Goswami, and today we are doing this CAT 2022 VARC slot 3 passage discussion. So in this analysis video, we are going to discuss the VARC passage number 1, which basically is the software automation passage. Before we go and jump into the full-fledged discussion, I would just want to say two things. First, you can watch the video at 1.5x speed. That will improve your viewing experience. And the second one is that like, share, subscribe. Okay, so having said that, I have already shared my shorthand notes for this particular RC. I'll just show them to you. This is the particular shorthand that I uploaded in the Telegram community. So if you are not in the Telegram community, you can just go and join it. It's in the description. Why is this important? We'll talk about this in the later segment of this video. As of now, I hope you have read this passage. It is everywhere freely floating in the internet. Of course, it is a CAT 2022 actual CAT RC passage, so it is there in the internet. But then even if you haven't read it, let's read it together. Okay, so I'll just get rid of the video palette for a while. I'll come back if necessary. Okay, so I hope this is all fairly visible and everything. So what is it that we are looking at? So we're looking at, as software improves, okay, so we're talking about some software, the people using it becomes less likely to sharpen their own know-how. Application that offers a lot of prompts and tips are often to blame. Simpler, less solicitous programs push people harder to think, act, and learn. Now, the first line of the first para, or the first para itself, this is a pretty short first para, basically just says one thing, that software improves. As software improves, the thinking decreases. So if I can put that down in a copy in this format, this is going to be something like that. Okay, I hope you can see this. Software improving, human thinking going down. All right, so is it important for a student to do some sort of a, you can say, shorthand? And a simple answer to that is yes, of course, because you will realize that this technique helps you come back at a passage. Obviously, you don't have the luxury of highlighting in a screen with a pen tool or something. We can do that, but I have to tell you that this is how you can emulate an actual test setup. This will make your life much more easier. I would also like to say one more thing. This is a very interesting and an important idea, why most of the teachers and most of the mentors are hell-bent on saying to the students that keep on using this thing, paraphrasing technique or summarizing techniques. This is one word, another way of saying deconstruct the argument, because ideally what we are seeing in the recent past CAT is that they are in a way or the other transforming somewhere towards the critical reasoning type questions. And a critical reasoning, we all know we can only answer by deconstructing the arguments like this through shorthands. Otherwise it becomes really difficult to understand the unstated assumptions and everything here and there. One more thing which I would like to do is reading the questions. So can we read the questions? Let's see. When I say read the questions, I obviously mean read it without the options, because the options have this thing that the options can create anchor biases. But let's read the question. From the passage, we can infer the author is apprehensive about the use of sophisticated automation for all of the following reasons, except that infer type. In the Ebola misdiagnosis case, we can infer that the doctor probably missed the forest for the trees, because this is a fact-based question. In the context of the passage, all of the following can be considered examples of human-centric automation, except, okay, infer type. It can be inferred from the Utrecht University experiment. A group of people was aimlessly clicking because, all right. So, mota we've understood this thing. So, I would urge you to pause and read. Okay. So, I hope you have paused. Now, let us read together. This will help you to also understand certain nuances of how I read. Obviously, my reading is going to be a little bit slower, than how I would have usually read it in the exam setup. And that is why I keep on saying that, use 1.5x speed. 10 years ago, this is the second one, 10 years ago, information scientists at Utrecht University in the Netherlands had a group of people carry out a complicated analytical and planning tasks using rudimentary software that provided no assistance or sophisticated software. Okay, so they had a group of people carry out complicated analytical and planning tasks using either a rudimentary software or a sophisticated software. Now you will realize why is it that I'm reading it like this. Okay, if you just realized, the sentence is a long sentence. Okay, it is not a 10-word sentence, it's a long sentence. So you have to make sense of the sentence. You cannot read it at the same speed, so the speed of your reading will obviously vary. So maybe you can read some part of the sentence very fast, some part of the sentence you have to read a little slower. Okay, so let's do this. That offered a great deal of aid. The researchers found that the people using simple software developed better strategies, made fewer mistakes, and developed a deeper aptitude for the work. People using the more advanced software, meanwhile, would often aimlessly click around. So I think this is somewhere, given also. When confronted with a tricky problem, so this is what they did when they were confronted with a tricky problem. The people that were using advanced softwares, they were aimlessly clicking around. The supposedly helpful software actually short-circuited their thinking and learning. So maybe what they use, were they seeing some sort of hoping for some sort of a help? Maybe. Let's read the next one. According to philosopher Hubert Dreyfus, our skills get sharper only through practice. Now this is an interesting idea that this Dreyfus fellow is saying. When we use them regularly to overcome different sort of difficult challenges, the goal of modern software, by contrast, is to ease our way through such challenges. Arduous, painstaking work is exactly what programmers are most eager to automate. After all, that is where the immediate efficiency gains tend to lie. In other words, a fundamental tension ripples between the interest of people doing automation and interest of people doing the work. Now, this is a fairly easy read. You can say no heavy arguments, no heavy idea sharing. Basically, what it's saying is that Hubert Dreyfus says that our skills get sharper only through practice. But what we are seeing is that arduous and painstaking work is exactly what programmers these days, software developer, you can say programmers, are most eager to automate after all. Now, at this point in time, you would realize that initially from this idea that we were talking about how software improves and human thinking goes down the drain, they're going into a different direction. They're giving you some sort of an idea as to how these programmers and the people that are using those programs have some sort of a strife between them. A trifle is the word. Okay, so let's read ahead. I will just shut up for a while. I'll give you some time to read the this passage so that you can have a better understanding. Okay, so I hope you paused and read. Nevertheless, automation scope continues to widen. Okay, so this is interesting. The scope of the automation continues to widen. With the rise of electronic health record, physicians increasingly rely on software templates to guide them through patient exams. The programs incorporate valuable checklists and alerts, but they also make medicine more routinized. Okay, so these softwares are making medicine more routinized and formulaic and distance the doctor from their patient. Okay, the Harvard Medical School professor Beth Lawin, this is a name and you have to pay attention to the argument of the name, warns, Beth Lawin is the professor that warns the doctors that when doctors become screen driven, following a computer prompt rather than a patient's narrative thread, their thinking can become constricted. Okay, a very unusual word. In the worst cases, they may miss important diagnostic signals. All right. Fairly readable one, understandable one. I don't really think we need to, make any this thing, attempt at explaining you this thing. I will read the shorthand notes also at the end of this one. In a recent paper published in the journal Diagnosis, 3 medical researchers examined the misdiagnosis of Thomas Eric Duncan. You can also, abbreviate this person as TED. The first person to die of Ebola in the US at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital, Dallas. You can actually skip reading these things also. Unnecessary information you don't really need to read. They argue that the digital template used by the hospital clinicians to record the patient's information probably helped to induce a kind of a tunnel vision. Okay, so they help to induce a tunnel vision. These highly constrained tools, the researchers write, are optimized for data capture, but at the expense of sacrificing their utility for appropriate triage and diagnosis. Their utility. Okay, whose utility? I'm not going to answer this. I'm just asking you to ponder on this idea. For an appropriate triage, leading users to miss the forest for the tree. Again, when we say users, it's the doctors. Okay, ponder on this idea also. Medical software, they write, is no replacement for basic history taking, examination skill, and critical thinking. So basically, software should not be, replacing the basic history taking, examination skill, and critical thinking. Let's conclude the passage. Read this one. Okay, so wait a second. There is an alternative. In human-centric automation, the talent of people take precedence. In this model, software plays an essential but secondary role. All right, interesting. It takes over routine function that human operator has already mastered. Issues and alert expected situation arise. When unexpected situation arise, provides fresh information that expands the operator's perspective and counters the biases and that often distort human thinking. All right, the technology becomes the expert's partner and not expert's replacement. Now, all right, so in a way, actually, if you look at this now, if you pay some attention, you will realize what is it the passage, the concluding passage is doing. Concluding passage is trying to, take you to this idea that Ted would not have died, the Duncan fellow would not have died had they used the software as a secondary measure and not a replacement of the doctor's essential diagnosis. I hope that makes sense, right? Now I will take you to my shorthand itinerary. I hope you can just read this one. Okay, I think this is fairly readable. This is how I would do it. If you want to do it some other ways, use even more abbreviated terms, use more symbols, you are welcome. Okay, this is how I would have done it. So what I have done is software improving, human thinking going down. The second passage talking about examples of this Utrecht University, simple versus advanced software. That's it. First, para, second para, done. The third one. Then we're talking about the philosopher Hubert Dreyfus. What does he say? He says skills goes up with practice. So just see how I have done the symbolisms over there. Modern software do the opposite. So skills goes down, with advanced software doing the arduous painstaking this thing. Okay, so this will actually make everything clear in your head. So I just want to take just 1 second to explain this thing. I understand very clearly that this will take some time, and you will say ki sir 40 minutes mein 4 RCs karne hote hain, or there is a verbal ability section also. Is this even feasible if we do it in the exam condition? Understand for a fact that you might only do 3 RCs. If you do your research well with the, obviously it will take some time, but then understand we're trying to improve our skills. This is a way of improvement. If you don't want to do it, just don't do it. That's completely fine. This was an easy passage, by the way. Even if you didn't want to do it, you could have just skipped this one. So nothing, we're not getting any brownie points for this one. The 4th, 5th, and the 6th, I will read at once. The 4th one says, exactly what is it that the 4th para says? Automation is thriving, a doctor relying on templates and getting away from patients. So this is a sort of a, you can say, warning of that, this Harvard fellow. Okay, so in the second line I have written that also, the Beth Lavan, doctors don't be screen, warns the doctor, don't be screen driven, patient narrative is important, they might miss out on important diagnosis. Okay, using abbreviations. Fifth one, misdiagnosis of TED, died of Ebola, digital template by doctors were constrained. I mean, I could have used a different word that, constricted the, I mean, these templates were not constrained per se, but I've just written it, out of, some, not using enough words. Last one. Alternatives. What is the alternative of this digital template that is causing all this havoc? Okay, that led to the TED fellow dying. Human-centric automation, software is important, but secondary, becomes partner, not replacement. Let us go to the questions and try to solve them within 5 minutes. Okay, I hope we don't really need to reread the passage again and again. Okay, the first one. From the passage, we can infer that the author is apprehensive. The author is apprehensive about the use of sophisticated automation for all of the following reasons, except. Let's read the first one. I don't really think that I need to explain the question to you, but I mean, if I have to explain, this basically tells you that the first, all the options are going to be correct. One option is going to be incorrect. In other words, I can say that the author is apprehensive of all of the following that are true, one is false. Okay, so maybe, you can do some sort of a reasoning there, exercise. It stops users from exercising their minds. Definitely, this is what, happens. I mean, this is written in the first para itself. Creativity goes down, or thinking goes down as this thing happens, right? Software improves, and the human beings and the creativity, whatever, that goes down. Okay, I've written it also over there. Human thinking, not exactly creativity, but thinking. Yeah. So sorry, I was not, I was not getting the right word. Yeah. So yeah, so this is there in the passage. So goes out. It could mislead people. Yes, sophisticated automation can mislead people. That happened in the case of that TED fellow, died of Ebola. Goes out. Computers could replace human. This is I mean, come on, this is not given in the passage. So this is the answer, an easy one, an easy option, you can say, not at all a difficult question. This option basically makes the passage very difficult. Sorry, not the passage, but the question type rather. It stunts the development of its user, given in the passage, so goes out. In the Ebola misdiagnosis case, we infer that the doctors probably missed the forest for the trees because. All right, let's read. We'll go back to the passage if required. They were led by the data processed by the digital templates. So the interesting word is processed by the digital templates. Yes, so this is given. So this can definitely be inferred. The digital template forced them to acquire tunnel vision. Please understand, the actual cat has this habit. Even the mock tests also these days, or from the time immemorial, they have this weird habit of, misquoting the exact text that is there in the passage. So this one particular word can, make the entire meaning of the entire, sentence haywired. So if you read this line of this passage, the last one, they argue that the digital template used by the hospital's clinicians to record the patient information probably helped to induce a kind of a tunnel vision. This helped them. It did not force them. Okay, so this is actually out, not there. So goes out. They use wrong type of digital templates. No, this is nothing to do with wrong, right digital template. It is just that they were only relying to the digital templates. They were not really putting too much attention on the basic, history taking, patient diagnosis, critical thinking, that thing that was written in the passage. I hope you remember that. The data collected were not sufficient for appropriate triad. Nowhere it is mentioned in the passage. I can take you back to this thing. Nowhere it is mentioned that it was, insufficient. Although it is written somewhere that these highly constrained tools So the tools are a bit constrained, but whether the software was insufficient in storing data, or the data were insufficiently stored, or the data collected were not sufficient for appropriate triage is not the case. It is just the some human error that happened over there. So that is probably the reason that we can eliminate this option also, that lead us to this one as our answer. The next one, okay, so we already had 20 minutes. In the context of the passage, all of the following can be considered as examples of the human-centered automation, except. Pay attention to this thing, except. Let's read. And if you want to perhaps look at the idea of a human-centric automation, that is, the software is very important, not very important, important, but is secondary. It becomes the partner, not the replacement. So this much we need to just understand. Let's go to the question, read the options. The software that offers interpretations when requested by human operators. So this is what it is, right? So humans need to be at the primary stage, and the software is giving some sort of interpretation. So the human is doing the task. It is just that the ideas are extrapolated by the software. So this is a statement that can be considered as an example of the human-centric automation. So goes out. Software that auto completes text when the user writes an email. Now understand one thing, if I start writing an email, and if the software basically completes it, is it a secondary process or a primary process? The primary process should be that I write the email, and the software should be telling me some grammatical mistake or something of that sort. It should be secondary. But if I start to write an email, and if it auto completes the text, it is doing the primary task that the human should have done. So this is in a way totally against the idea. So bang on, this is the answer. An easy question, right? But then let's read the other options. Medical software that provide optional feedback. Feedback is something that is secondary, definitely goes out. A smart home system that changes the temperature as instructed by the resident, goes out. If you pay a little attention, you will realize all the three options are alike. So this was also a clue maybe you can incorporate in your problem solving arsenal, is that one option is completely misfit, the others are fitting into a bracket. So maybe that is also a way in which you could have eliminated this one. The last one, it can be inferred in the Utrecht University experiment, a group of people was aimlessly clicking around because. Now I will take you to the passage. Because in the shorthand also I have not written much. I have just written that the software improves, human thinking decreases, and the example of the Utrecht University was given. So I'll take you back. What it says is that a group of people carried out some sort of this is the passage, carried out some complicated analytical planning tasks. And what is it that they were provided with? Either with rudimentary software that provided no assistance and software that offered a great deal of aid. The researchers found that we have read this thing, that the rudimentary software or the simple software fellows, they made fewer mistakes, developed a deeper aptitude, and the ones who were given advanced software, they were aimlessly clicking around when confronted with a tricky problem. So clicking around, I don't know what I can do. I mean, the software is there. I mean, the software should in fact help me, na? So it's a advanced software. The supposedly helpful software actually short-circuited their thinking and learning. Okay, let's go to the options and read the options. They were hoping that the software would carry out the tasks. Could be, I'll keep it. They did not have the skill set to address the complicated task. This is out of the scope of the passage. Whether they had the skill set or not is not in the question. It is just given that there were a group of people, they were given the complicated analytical tasks. It is just given that one set of audience was given a rudimentary software, a simple software, the other one was given a advanced software. Nowhere they have really mentioned that they did not have the skill set. So this is actually out. The other group was carrying out the task more efficiently. Is this because of which the one group was aimlessly clicking around? This is a very simple question. They wanted to avoid making mistakes. Again goes out. They didn't want to. I mean, even if they wanted to avoid making mistakes, that is out of the context of the passage. Okay, so they were actually hoping the software would carry out the mistakes. Oh, sorry, not the mistakes, the tasks. So yeah, with that being said, this is the end of the RC. It took me 25 minutes, but that is because, you know, I read the RCs. Guys, please understand, I just want to say that I can actually complete this RC in less than 10 minutes. But I read the entire RC for a particular reason, and that is because I want you all to understand my process of reading, my process of elimination, and how I take certain pauses where pauses are necessary while reading a particular passage. Okay, so with that being said, I would just ask you all to please support this channel, spread the word, make sure that people know about competition crusade classes, and that is all that I'm asking, nothing else, right? So if you like the video, you know the drill. If you have any comments, if you have any query in general, you can just, you know, get in touch with us in the comment section in the Telegram community as well. Thank you.